We are back with a brand new video. What is good, Heat Nation? We're here to talk about a trade target that I think could really benefit the Miami Heat. Obviously, the Miami Heat have lost their last game against the Toronto Raptors. Again, I said it in the last video, I was not going to be able to watch this game live because I was actually on a flight, but I was able to catch the recorded version slash the highlights and the extended highlights. And basically, you know, from what I saw, they were getting killed on the glass. They were getting killed on the glass by the Raptors. Kind of expected without Bam, to be honest. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, without Bam, like, I think, you know, Jimmy is obviously the best player on this team, but Bam might be the most important player as far as, you know, a guy that we cannot afford to miss too many games. Just because of Jimmy, Kyle, Tyler, these guys miss games, we have guys who can slot into their places and still play a good role, like Gabe and Max. If Bam is out, like, I don't really know what they do, especially because Yurt7 is going to be out for like a portion of the season as well, and like their only true center is Dedmon. We're going to talk about Nikola Jovic's minutes as well. Before we get into all of this though, and talking about the trade target, which is why I'm making this video, make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe if you guys are new, follow my Twitter, which will be in the description, and after a long break from my second channel, I'm finally going to bring it back and start making videos on the second channel, which I have not done due to, you know, a lot of work with my classes in college and stuff like that. But I will be making weekly videos on my second channel, which is just NBA talk. So that'll all be in the description if you guys want to go check that out. Let's get right into it though. Like I said, tough loss against Toronto. No Hero or Bam, but they also did not have Siakam or Gary Trent Jr. So it kind of evened out, I guess. But to be honest, man, I didn't really expect, you know, much from this game. Like, obviously, like, the Raptors are a very good team. OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, these guys are still like 3 all-star caliber players on their team. And OG killed us. He had 32, 10, and 3. But I think the main reason we lost this game was because of the rebounding and the turnovers. You know, we only had 23 rebounds. They had 42. They had 16 offensive rebounds. We had 23 turnovers to their 14. Those two reasons were why we lost the game. We shot better from the field, from the 3, and from the free throw line. But unfortunately, because of our inability to get a rebound and our inability to protect the ball, we ended up losing this game. Also, did not help that Jimmy Butler kind of just went through the motions, as he usually does in regular season games. But yeah, I mean, I think that you know, the size is an issue for this team. It is an issue for this team, especially when Bam is out. A lot of games that we have lost this season is because teams have gone on runs whenever Bam was on the bench, and it's like Dedmon, he's been up and down this season. But you know, Dedmon has been more bad to this team than good this season, if you guys get what I mean. Like, he hasn't been terrible. Like, he had a terrible start, but like since he came back from his injury, like, he's looked good at times, but he's also been like getting killed defensively. Like, teams have just gone at him in the pick and roll. It's not been looking good for Dedmon. Obviously we started Nikola Jovic, the Rook, last night. I thought he played really, really well in a position that he's not really familiar with, and this is why I think we need a backup center, you know, whoever that may be, which is why we're going to talk about this player in this video. Nikola Jovic is not a center. He's been forced to play center because we don't really have anyone else to play right now without Bam and Yurt. Our only center option is Dedmon, and that's why Jovic had to play the 5. But Jovic is not a center. This guy was bringing the ball up in Serbia. He's a point forward. He's not the player who's going to set screens. He's the player coming off of screens and shooting. You know, he's a playmaker. He's a guy with the ball in his hands. He's not a center. So, you know, he had a good game last night, which is really good for a fact that he played out of position and he played extremely well. But that does not mean he's a center. He's not a center whatsoever. And I don't want Nikola Jovic to be a center in this league. I want him to be a 3 or a 4 because I think that's what he's going to be. I don't think he's going to be a center. His skill set does not reflect, you know, what a center does. He brings the ball up the floor. He play makes. He shoots threes. He shoots from the mid-range area. He gets to the rim, puts the ball on the floor. comes off screens. Like, he's not a center. He is not a center at all. So our only center on the roster without Bam and Yurt is Dwayne Dedmon. And Dwayne Dedmon, as good of a player as he was a couple of years ago when we got him, he's declined a little bit. He hasn't been the same, Dwayne Dedmon from a couple of years ago or even last year. Like, he's regressed, which is why in this video we're going to be talking about a potential trade for Jakob Poeltl, who is actually a player that the Heat have been linked with. I think 5 Reasons came out with this, saying that the Heat are keeping an eye on Jakob Poeltl. Jakob Poeltl is a very underrated center. I think he's the most underrated center in the NBA and probably one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He is having a really good season. And I think that Jakob Poeltl, his 2 biggest, strengths are his rim protection and his rebounding. And that is, the 2 biggest needs in a center, especially a backup center. Jakob Poeltl, if he were to come to this team, he would not start. By no means am I saying that Jakob Poeltl is going to start at the 5 on this team and with Bam at the 4, because he's not a floor spacer. Bam is not a floor spacer. The fit would be really clunky, especially with Jimmy there. You would bring Jakob Poeltl in to come off the bench. Jakob Poeltl is a guy that just had 31 points and 14 rebounds and 5 assists in their last game against the Trailblazers. He is extremely underrated, man. I'm a huge fan of his game. I think that Jakob Poeltl, I think the team, San Antonio is gonna trade him because he is 27, does not really fit their timeline. They're gonna want to give Jeremy Sohan some minutes at that 4 or 5 spot. And then even they're gonna try to tank for Wembanyama. They're gonna have to trade Poeltl away sooner than later. And right now he's averaging 13 points per game, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, career high in assists, career high in rebounds, basically a career high in points. I mean, he averaged basically the same points as he is this year and last year's season. He's having a terrific season, man. I'm a huge fan of his game, and I think if the Heat can pick him up as a backup center, he would be the best backup in the NBA. If the Heat can get him. Now, how would a trade look like for Jakob Poeltl? He makes about $9 million, but I just went through the trade machine here, and from what it's looking like, a trade with Duncan Robinson and Haywood Highsmith, as well as some draft capital, could get it done. It is possible to do this trade. As far as the money, everything is fine. The money matches. If we were even without Highsmith, if you throw in Duncan's contract, even though Duncan is making $7 million more, the Spurs have the cap space to take that on. So, Jakob is making about 9.5, Duncan is making about 16, 17. But since the Spurs have, a lot of cap space to eat up, Duncan Robinson's contract is possible to give up in this trade. Haywood Highsmith is another young player that could be, because obviously Duncan Robinson and Jakob Poeltl's values are completely different. You cannot just swap them. You would have to throw in a younger player. Haywood Highsmith is that player for me. I don't really think Haywood Highsmith's going to really carve out a niche in this team. I'm not really high on Haywood Highsmith, especially with the emergence of Jovic and Kane and all these guys. I think Highsmith will be the odd man out. And then, obviously you're going to have to throw in some picks because Duncan Robinson's contract is that bad where a team is going to want at least 1 first-round pick or maybe even 2 to attach. But I think 1 first-round pick, Duncan Robinson and Haywood Highsmith, could get it done. Obviously, if you need to throw in a second or 2 seconds along with that, so be it. This trade is gonna make us a lot better, especially for 2 players that I know Duncan has played this season, but I think a lot of that is because we've had injuries. I don't really think he would be in the rotation if our team was fully healthy. And then Haywood Highsmith has not been in the rotation at all. And we're getting rid of Duncan's contract for a player who's a lot cheaper and a lot more serviceable for this team. It's a W for the Heat. Would the Spurs do it? I don't know. The Spurs, the only reason they would be enticed to do this trade is because of Haywood Highsmith and what they might see in him and a first-round pick that we will throw in this trade. Other than that, I don't think the Spurs would be intrigued to take on Duncan Robinson. Maybe, he'd be added shooting. It would also be pretty cool for the Spurs to have Duncan Robinson on their team, considering their 2 legendary bigs are Tim Duncan and David Robinson. So that would be pretty cool. But apart from that, it would be yet to be seen if the Spurs were to be acceptable to this trade. But I think the Heat should definitely try to get Jakob Poeltl if possible. He is definitely on the market. There's also been rumblings of Miles Turner. Miles Turner, I think if they were to get Turner, he would probably start. Poeltl would come off the bench. The only reason why I think they're going to stay away from Turner is the fact that he is an expiring contract. I'm pretty sure Poeltl, he's signed to a 3-year contract. I don't think he's I don't think he's expiring. I don't think he's expiring at all. And I think that, he's going to be I think he still has at least 1 more year on his contract before his contract expires. So you don't have to worry about paying him this offseason or anything. Whereas with Miles Turner, he is a free agent. So yeah, I think that Poeltl is a very good deal to do. I'm a huge fan of his game. Actually, I got to take back what I said about his contract, because I'm looking at it right now. I am mistaken. Apparently he is a free agent. So Miles Turner and Poeltl are free agents, so you can just completely scrap what I said about not trading for them because of their expiring contracts. But even so, like, Poeltl's $9 million, I think it's a very cheap deal. Like, you can do it. Like, he'll be the best backup in the league if you bring him in. Turner would start on this team, I think, because of his floor spacing ability. He can fit really well next to Bam. You can have Bam chase guys around and guard the 4s or the 3s, and you can have Turner guard the centers. I think that would be a really good fit as well. And even if you want to do like a trade, like the Lakers have been trying to get Turner and Hield for a long time, you can snag one or both of them if you want to. I think Turner and Duncan Robinson's contracts completely match up perfectly, but you would definitely have to throw in draft capital in that deal as well, and probably Haywood Highsmith. It would be Duncan Robinson and Highsmith for both of these centers, and then obviously draft capital added from the Heat. But size is definitely an emphasis that needs to be addressed this offseason. I mean, not this offseason, this season. And do I expect anything to happen like imminently? No. Because I think they're going to be like, okay, Bam was out. If, when Bam comes back, I don't think we're going to be getting killed like that. But still, like, having a 6'5" power forward on your team is going to hurt you on the glass. Caleb has been playing extremely well, but you cannot teach size. You cannot teach, height. And Poeltl and Turner are natural centers who can snag rebounds and protect the rim. And they will be extremely good fits on this team. So either one of them I would not be mad at. Ideally, I'm making this video about Poeltl because the Heat have actually been linked to him. They haven't really been linked to Turner by any outlet as far as like 5 reasons or anyone. Like, no one's really said like the Heat are interested in Turner, but the Heat have been linked with Poeltl, so that's why I'm making this video around him. But Turner would also be a really good addition to this team as well. Either way, we need size desperately. And hopefully Bam comes back sooner or later, because it's going to be really tough to win games without him. I'll wrap it up here, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see y'all later as always. Peace.